or common usage. If you inculcate that, you're trying to drill those kind of concepts into folks' heads. It's not just mentioning, so that's kind of important, and the teacher's like, oh yeah, we get that. Now, the 8 concepts, I'm going to take a moment and read the slides. I don't usually read slides, but these are the 8 concepts that teachers are prohibited from inculcating. They're all the time. 1, that one race or sex is inherently superior to another race or sex. 2, an individual by virtue of the individual's race or sex is inherently racist, sexist, or oppressive, whether consciously or unconsciously. 3, an individual should be discriminated against or receive adverse treatment solely or partly because of the individual's race. 4, an individual's moral character, standing, or worth is necessarily determined by the individual's race or sex. 5, an individual by virtue of the individual's race or sex bears responsibility, blame, or guilt for actions committed in the past by other members of the same race or sex. 6, meritocracy or traits such as hard work ethic are racist or sexist or were created by members of a particular race to oppress members of another race. 7, the advent of slavery or in the territory that is now the United States constituted the true founding of the United States, or with respect to the relationship to American values, slavery and racism are anything other than deviations from, betrayals of, and failures to live up to the authentic founding principles of the United States, which include liberty and equality. Now pause for a second. Those are the 8 concepts, and we pause for a second to talk to the teachers about how, actually we did at the beginning, I skipped this part, but our mission very clearly says we're the heart of our community whose passion is excellence, and we're committed to educating and empowering every child to do essentially 2 things: to excel academically and to excel as a confident, compassionate citizen. Now, in general, excelling academically is defined by our TEKS. Right? So I'm teaching 8th grade social studies, I'm teaching those TEKS. I want my kids to excel at that. Same thing with ELAR and all the other stuff. To excel as a confident, compassionate citizen, we've got our profile that helps delineate that, right? Those are all the things that we're working on to make sure kids, when they go out, you need more than just content, that's important, but you need to be creative, communicate, all those kind of things. That's why we have the profile. In fact, in February, our whole February staff development is focused on those 2 rails, I guess, or tracks. And so, insofar as we're covering our TEKS already, and we're covering our profile, this does not fit into either of those 2. And so we don't feel like we're having to give up anything. We're still working both of those things. This law is just, it's law. Next. There's a note, I mean, we've heard a lot about libraries in the media this last semester, but this bill does not mention libraries at all. So this is one of those things that when you kind of ease the teachers, you want to clarify. So, hey, so teachers, this part of the bill says parents aren't going to sue you if they feel like you're, if you accidentally say, oops, I just inculcated something. I didn't mean to, but I did. Parents can't sue you because of this. The mechanism is the administration. So it's just like any other rule, you get talked to and you get corrected and, you get a reprimand or whatever. That's how it works.
Or a cardboard box.
Frank is forecasting how he plans to get
Really noted.
These are from a law firm. These are not Frank's.
I mean,
the guy's flowers in the box.
Really noted. I'm
Frank,
gonna
did you
actually.
use that picture with
I
the
have,
teachers?
nobody has targeted on that, but I promise you I will make jokes about it tomorrow when I present.
But this is just a general statement. This isn't something that's included in Senate Bill 3, correct?
No, it is. That's how, because it says, this is definitely in Senate Bill 3.
Yeah.
But to be honest with you, I haven't read it, but I think the lawyers implied that the mechanism action is simply
Dismissal.
regular administrator action. But I can certainly go back and double check that. This is in the bill for sure.
Yeah.
This might be an inference.
I think it's an inference. I'm looking at it right now. But I think it's like, well, if you violate the law, the school could theoretically take action. I don't think there's anything in here about it.
Just like any of the words could or may
There's no
versus
word,
a
I don't
shall
think there's,
or
Yeah.
I'll
will.
keep looking, I don't think there's anything about it, period.
Now, this one we're still working on, and it, well, so it's just, we've been going back and forth, and the interpretation of what this means is not clear to, it's not crystal clear to anyone, because it's ambiguous. So the idea is that, we all use Google Classroom, right? Parents can log into Google Classroom anytime they want and see what their kid's Google Classroom is. So this law says that if you have a learning management system, an LMS, which is what Google Classroom is, parents have to be able to have access to see what their kids are doing. That's easy, done, we're there. The thing that we're still trying to work through is that, like we have like your social studies textbook. A lot of stuff's online, and the kids get a password and can log in. We're still not clear what the law requires us to make sure that the parents get that or not, and how to do that. So we're working through that. That's to be determined.
Would that be an additional license? Just thinking.
We don't think so. We think it'd be just as easy as saying, hey, David, here's your kid's logins. Have at it. We think, but we're still going back and forth with lawyers and curriculum folks. Now, I'm getting too excited. I just go. So essentially, I'm going to go quicker. This next part says that it's about assigning grades, awarding credit, giving extra credit for things essentially where kids are working for an advocacy group or lobbying group for policy or social issues. You can't give credit, you can't make assignments like that. Essentially, that's what these first two slides say. Now, the last slide is exceptions. So yeah, like you can still do community service and that kind of thing. So they're not, don't worry, NHS service project, that's not going away. And the second bullet is internships, like if it's part of your course, that's not going away either. The next page is participation in things like, the county stuff or the state stuff that already exists as government processes, that's fine too. And the last one is write a letter to your representative, that's still allowed. You just you can't kind of
Or to
restrict.
us, we got all
Yeah.
those letters.
Yeah, you can't restrict what they're writing about. And incidentally, this was not clear in that first bill, and so this was interpreted as cleanup from that previous bill.
So kind of like, what was it, McKinney ISD that said we're not gonna do Boys State, or there was something.
Yeah, it was a
I think that was during that summer, right?
Yeah.
So this is part of that cleanup.
Yeah. And then, so the last thing about training is essentially, so remember those 8 topics? We're not supposed to train people about those. Now, this private funding, it says, anybody coming to you to saying, hey, I'll give you private funding to do, cover this curriculum. We can't do that if it's part of that inculcation. The way we tell teachers is, hey, anybody coming to you offering to buy something, you can just shove them back to your principal. Like say, hey, talk to my principal, and we'll make sure to pass that. I think it's the last part. Student discipline. Now, so while teachers are prohibited from inculcating those 8 concepts, the law also clarifies that it doesn't mean kids can't discuss those 8 concepts as part of their regular discussion. The lawyer said, I think this is probably a cleanup from the first one because, if you spook everybody from even talking about those things, it might be easy for people to misunderstand, saying, oh, if kids are talking about it, I need to hush them up and give them attention. That's not the intention of this bill. So this is clarifying that. Now, the lawyers also clarify that violations of like FFH and FFI, like bullying and racism, that's still illegal. Like you can't taunt kids, you can't call them in, like all that stuff is still in trouble. That's not what this means. And so this text went into effect in December, and then we'll be watching in the summer for all those curricular changes. I think that's it. And those were the folks who presented it. They were very nice.
Poor guy.
And
Old lady.
They are presenting, these folks are presenting it to us, the teachers, or you are?
I am. I'm using their slides.
Yeah.
You got big.
So, I'll look. Are you,
Done.
you had your hand up, I was just jumping. When you talk about the school district may, institute disciplinary action if we needed to, I mean, how is that
No, yeah, so
Or are
the,
you, how do you walk that line, or where are you guys on this?
well, the tenor of what we've, so back me up if I'm misspeaking different. The essential thing is, the teacher's like, yeah, we don't do that,
Yep.
and we're not gonna do that.
Yep.
And so it's not really gonna be an issue. And so that's kind of the general, like, oh yeah, this is, thanks for showing us this is easy, like, we don't do this, and so we're fine. Of course, I haven't done all the meetings yet, but that's been the tenor so far.
It's actually a good follow-on from Stacy. I really appreciate that question and that answer. Because this is just my frustration that the law implies a distrust of our teachers. And so what I really want to make sure is in your conversations with our staff, that we're doing this because of this law, not because this board doesn't trust you, excuse me, and not because this community doesn't trust you. I want to make sure that we hold on to our culture while the state is trying to push all this stuff at us. And so that's just a comment for you to take back.
Yeah, when we start, the thing I need to do for you all, but we start by framing in the mission and, the standards and the profile, we do that for a while. We do some, icebreakers and then we go into that area. That we should.
Thank
Yeah. Jimmy, anything to add?
No, I think Frank does a really good job of framing it by beginning with mission and then ending into who we are as Alamo Heights and how this is. It is good to know the law, it's good to know what's in there, but we're always gonna be true to who we are and leaning into, we do wanna have rigorous conversations with our kids, but in a manner that is objective and free of political bias, which is nothing new for our conversations. We trained teachers on it last year. So I think the spirit, we've been in 3 of them, meetings, and there's been great conversations, and I think teachers have all felt supported in this. It did feel oppressive.
Yeah, it's interesting. Jimmy, early on said, hey, Frank, so remember, a lot of them don't know you anymore. Because you don't work in C&I, so you might want to start by introducing yourself.
Oh,
I was like, that's pretty good, because about half of them I knew from way back.
Yeah.
But other than like, they see me at convocation.
So you meet them in the first hour, and by the end, you show them the cardboard box.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, we're gonna like this.
Yeah, they've been good, and it's been good.
That was fun.
It was a great catch.
All right, any other questions, comments? All right, with that, the open part of our meeting today is done. We will adjourn for a couple of minutes, and then we're gonna go into executive session.
Hey, Carrie, since we're going to closed session, you're gonna have to hang up.
Oh, I know, it's
Thank you all, appreciate it.
Hey,
Have a
thank
good
you,
day.
Carrie. Yeah.
It's just confidence.
Special delivery outside the door.
Oh.
So this is the end of the meeting.
Yes, I just, when I also